In 1967, after CIA-sponsored veterinary surgery, a cat walked free carrying a microphone in its ear canal, a transmitter at the base of its skull, and a wire antenna woven into its tail. This was Operation Acoustic Kitty, one of the most ambitious and bizarre covert surveillance programs of the Cold War. The CIA had spent years and an estimated $15 to $20 million turning a domestic cat into a mobile listening device. The first field test was a failure. What happened next depends on who's telling the story. By the early 1960s, the CIA faced a persistent challenge: how to conduct surveillance in environments where traditional bugs couldn't be planted. Soviet diplomats were trained in counter-surveillance. Meeting locations were chosen randomly. Conversations happened outdoors, in parks, on benches, places where a hidden microphone would be immediately obvious. The CIA needed a surveillance platform that could move freely, appear completely natural, and get close enough to record conversations without raising suspicion. In 1961, the Directorate of Science and Technology proposed a solution that seemed to come from science fiction: use an animal. The concept was straightforward. The execution was anything but. The plan required surgically implanting a microphone into a cat's ear canal, embedding a small radio transmitter at the base of its skull, and threading a thin wire antenna through its tail. A battery and instrument pack was implanted in the cat's torso and rib cage. The transmitter would relay short-range audio to a nearby receiver van. Veterinary surgeons working with CIA engineers performed the modifications. According to later accounts from former CIA officials, they even attempted to address the cat's tendency to wander off in search of food by adding another wire, though the specifics of this modification remain unclear. But the technical challenge wasn't just the hardware, it was the cat itself. Cats don't follow instructions. They're driven by hunger, curiosity, and territorial instincts, not mission objectives. If the cat wandered off, got distracted, or simply lost interest, the entire operation would fail. The CIA's solution was training. For months, handlers attempted to condition the cat to walk toward specific sounds, sit near targets, and remain in position long enough for useful intelligence gathering. This training proved to be the first sign the project might not work. After years of development, Operation Acoustic Kitty was ready for field testing. The target was a park near the Soviet compound in Washington, D.C. Two Soviet officials were meeting on a bench. The mission was simple: release the cat from a van across the street, let it wander naturally toward the target, and record the conversation. What happened next has become one of the most debated stories in CIA history. According to a widely circulated account, the cat was released, crossed the street, and was immediately struck and killed by a taxi, ending the project in spectacular failure. However, former CIA Office of Technical Service Director Robert Wallace disputes this claim entirely. According to Wallace, the cat survived, the equipment was removed, and the project was terminated simply because the training approach proved impractical in real-world conditions. Either way, the mission produced no usable intelligence. The problem wasn't the technology. The implanted system functioned as designed. Audio quality was acceptable. The transmission worked. The problem was biological. Cats cannot be trained like dogs. Their behavior is fundamentally unpredictable in uncontrolled environments. Environmental distractions were equally problematic. A cat released near a target might investigate a bird, chase a shadow, or simply decide to leave the area entirely. There was no reliable way to direct its movement once it was deployed. In 1967, the CIA officially terminated Operation Acoustic Kitty. A declassified memo summarized the conclusion. The technical work represented a remarkable scientific achievement, but for intelligence purposes, the use of cats would not be practical. The program's cost is estimated between $15 and $20 million in the 1960s dollars, based on accounts from former CIA officials, equivalent to over $150 million today. For that investment, the CIA produced at least one outfitted cat and no usable intelligence. But Operation Acoustic Kitty wasn't an isolated case of Cold War absurdity. It was part of a broader pattern. During the same period, the CIA explored using pigeons with cameras. The Navy trained dolphins with sonar equipment, and the agency even experimented with trained ravens for covert missions. Some of these programs produced results. Others, like Acoustic Kitty, demonstrated the limits of biological systems in espionage. The project remained classified until 2001, when portions of the files were declassified following Freedom of Information Act requests. Operation Acoustic Kitty represents something significant about Cold War intelligence work: the willingness to pursue any technological advantage, no matter how unconventional. The CIA's engineers successfully miniaturized surveillance technology to fit inside a living animal, an impressive technical achievement for the 1960s. The project failed not because the technology didn't work, but because biology doesn't follow operational plans. It's easy to mock the program as absurd, but it reflects the same desperation that built Raven Rock, that created satellite surveillance, and that drove every other improbable innovation of the era. The Cold War demanded solutions to impossible problems. Sometimes those solutions worked, and sometimes they just refused to cooperate.